You're listening to the Music Tech Teacher Podcast, episode number 8. Welcome to the Music Tech Teacher Podcast. Music tech tips, lesson ideas, advice, news, and interviews, especially for music teachers. Brought to you by midnightmusic.com.au. Hello, I'm Katie Wardrobe and welcome to the Music Tech Teacher Podcast. In today's episode, we're going to continue with some productivity tips for music teachers that I've been talking about in one of my workshops recently. In the previous episode of this podcast, I covered the first few tips, and that included things like how to best remember lots of passwords easily and securely, which task management software I use on a daily basis, how to use things like templates and procedures as a kindness to your future self. And I talked about Text Expander, which is software that fills in snippets of text when you type a little shortcut, which I find really speeds up the work that I do each day. If you haven't listened to that episode, you might actually want to go back and listen to that one first and then join me here because this is part B of the productivity tips. As always, the show notes for this episode, that's the list of things that I'm going to cover today, can be found on my website at midnightmusic.com.au/8. So today's productivity tips, I want to continue on with some of the things that I've been covering in this workshop. And the first one I'm going to talk about is backing up your stuff. Now, this may not seem like it's really a true productivity tip, but I'm thinking about the future here. So if you've ever experienced losing data at all or your computer crashing completely and the stress that goes along with that, you'll know that having things backed up really does save time in the long run. So it's something that you should be doing all the time. And I know you all know this, but I'm going to say that you really should be doing it. It will only take that one time for things to go bad for you to change your mind if you're not already doing it. So there's a couple of things that you might want to consider. You can back up things locally to a hard drive. So that's a physical hard drive that you might have sitting on your desk at home or at school. And you can back up your laptop, your computer onto that hard drive and things will be there. So if something does go wrong, someone can restore data or even the whole system from that hard drive. Now, that's not a foolproof system because, what if the house burns down and the hard drive goes with it, or maybe you're not in the place where you can access the hard drive? One option there is to actually back up to a couple of different hard drives and keep them in different places. So you might keep one at home and one at school. I personally have my things backed up in a couple of locations, so on 2 different hard drives. But the other thing that you should consider is to have data and information backed up in an online location as well as a physical hard drive. I wouldn't really do one without the other. I think it's a really good idea to have both because then you've just got that extra insurance, and this is all about insurance and future proofing. What you also want to make sure that you do is to back up all of your devices. So I know most people will consider their laptop being something they need to back up, but don't forget that you should also be backing up your smartphone if you have one, your iPad or other tablet device as well, because things can also go wrong there and it can be really painful if you lose that information or if something bad happens to it and you can't easily restore all the information quickly. Now, if you're on a Mac, there is a built-in system called Time Machine, which will automatically back up things for you to a hard drive. So I use Time Machine. Basically, when I have my hard drive plugged into my laptop, Time Machine will kick in periodically throughout the day and it will back up all the information that's on my laptop. Now, the very first time that you run the Time Machine backup, it will go through the process of backing up everything. So that's all your applications, all your data, everything that's on your laptop. But the subsequent times after that point, it will just back up whatever's changed most recently. So whatever changes have happened since the previous backup. So the ones after the first time are quite quick and they happen in the background. You don't really notice that they're going on. And as I said, they occur when my hard drive is actually plugged into my laptop. So that's something that I use. That's one option. Now, for a system that works on both Mac and PCs, there is a service called Crash Plan, which is really useful. And that will back up your information to a hard drive, just like Time Machine does. But it will also create an online storage of your data as well. So this can be really useful. So it does have the two options there. This means that if the hard drive does fail, the hard drive itself breaks or gets lost or burnt or whatever, you've got an online storage of all of your data as well. And they have a free plan which you can use. The free plan will allow you to back up to this hard drive that you have. And I think that you can also store 30 days worth of data for free. But if you want to keep storing information online after that point, there's a paid option that you can use. And really, it's not very expensive. It's just a few dollars a month. I think you pay by the year, but it really breaks down to be just a few dollars a month. And it's totally worth the money, I think, if you want to just make sure that you've got everything safe and secure. Now, another thing that I also use is services like Dropbox and Google Drive. I have a lot of documents in those places. And of course, this is kind of like an added bonus backup system in a way, because if something is stored in Dropbox, I can access it from my laptop, I can access it from my phone, but it's also has a copy on the Dropbox server as well. So if I'm at anyone else's house, I can log in using their computer and actually still access my documents. So I have a lot of, really commonly used documents that I work on a lot, or session notes from workshops and videos from courses that I've created. A lot of those live in Dropbox so that I know that there's another copy of it kind of safe somewhere. Google Drive works in a similar way, and there's iCloud as well if you're using Apple products. All of those things will store your information online. So I really do urge you, if you're not already creating regular backups, and this includes those of you who may have a backup of your stuff, but if it's from a year ago, it may not be that useful. If your computer dies tomorrow, a 12-month-old backup is not going to do you a lot of good. You may cry. I would definitely get in the habit of doing that regularly. Now, moving on to website issues. Now, again, this is something you might sort of think, why is this included in productivity tips? But if you are working online and needing to use a specific website, whether that's just for yourself for doing work or whether you're wanting to use this in a lesson with students, if that website is not working, it can really disrupt your productivity. And I've added this into workshops because I have a system, a sort of a series of steps that I'll take to check whether a website is truly working for everybody and just not me for some reason, or whether it's actually down for everybody. And if it is down for everyone, there's really no point in pursuing the website at that time. If it's not working at all because maybe that website is undergoing maintenance at the time or there's some issue with it, then you really need to just move on and do something else, do some other activity. So I have a couple of ways of checking that. So the first thing I'll do, if a website's not loading quickly or properly, just not loading at all, I'll first of all check that my Wi-Fi is working. So I'll visit a different website and see if that loads okay. Now, if another website is loading okay, I know my Wi-Fi is all right, so then my next step is to maybe try the same website, the one that's causing me issues, maybe try it in a different browser. Occasionally there'll be issues with a specific website in a specific browser, and one of the common ones here is that music websites, and I'm talking musical creativity type websites where you're going to do something musical in them, they actually work best in the Chrome browser. So if you're using a different browser and the website is not working, my first step would be to switch to the Chrome browser and see if it works in there. I've also had this issue with non-music websites as well. For instance, there's a fantastic website called Kahoot, which allows you to create online quizzes. Now, it's really great, but it works best in the Chrome browser, and they say this on their website. It doesn't work really in Internet Explorer. So if you are visiting Kahoot in Internet Explorer, you're probably going to have issues with it. So I would switch over to Chrome and see if it works in there. So whichever one you're trying it in, just try one of the others and see if it loads in a different browser. If the website's still not working, my next step is to go to a website which is actually called Down for Everyone, ? And I go there and you can pop the website address into a little box, and there's a sentence which says, is such and such website down for everyone, or is it just me? And you click on the just me part of that sentence and it will search for that website and check the status, the online status of that particular site. Now, if you click on the just me, it will come back with, yes, it's down for everybody, it's not just you. Or it will come back with, no, it's just you, that website is actually up. So that's a good way of determining once and for all whether you should pursue this in the lesson that you're running or pursue doing work on that website if you're trying to use it for some work purpose and it's just not working. That's what I would do, is just double check it on there and you'll know once and for all whether to worry about using it that day or not. The last thing I do sometimes, and depends on maybe what website you're visiting and where you're actually visiting that website from, so where you're located at the time, is that you can do a speed test. And this is to check the speed of your internet connection, so the download speed and the upload speed of the internet connection. So I find that some websites, and particularly the musical ones, which are, ones where you are maybe using audio in the browser, some of those websites need to use a little bit more power than other websites. I don't really know a better way of expressing it, but you probably know what I mean. Some take a little bit more oomph to run than other websites, and the website speed can have some effect on that. So if you're in a place where the download and upload speed is very slow, you may have trouble using certain websites, and it just becomes a very difficult thing. So occasionally what I'll do if I'm in an unknown place, so somewhere which is not my home, where I know what the internet speed is like at my house, which is not very good, by the way. If I'm somewhere else, maybe at a school where I'm presenting, and I'm having some trouble with a website, I may just do a quick speed test and see if the internet speed there is really bad, in which case, again, I may decide to just not use that website that day. I may abandon my plans and use something else in its place. So the place you can do this, if you actually just Google the words speed test, there's a website called speedtest.net, and you can just click a button there which says begin test, and it will run a little test for you and tell you what your download and upload speed is like. If it's very low, if it's under 5 megabits per second download speed, that's, not so great. That's what I have here at my house. And, you're maybe going to have more problems than if you're getting 25 megabits per second download or 100 megabits per second download, which is my dream at the moment, to get that kind of speed happening at my place. If you're having low download and upload speeds, there's going to be more issues with running some websites. Now, I mentioned in the intro as well to do with websites that occasionally you'll go to visit a website you knew existed, or even a page on a website that you knew existed in the past, because maybe you want to use it in a class and you find that page is no longer there. You get some sort of error message. Now, there is a way to visit websites which no longer exist, or pages on websites that no longer exist. And the place you can do that is a website called the Internet Archive. They have a section of their site which is called the Wayback Machine. So it's a little bit like using a time machine. You can plug the name of the website in there. You can basically copy and paste the URL of the website into a box on that page and press enter, and it will search for that site. Now, a calendar pops up, and you can enter a date where you want to visit the website. So what this service does is that it takes snapshots of websites on certain days of the year. It doesn't take a snapshot every single day. So when you look at the calendar, you can actually see where there are snapshots. So for my own website, for instance, if I looked back to, say, April 2016, there might be a snapshot taken on the 1st of April, and then there might be 3 taken on the 4th of April, and then another 1 on the 15th of April, and then another couple on the 23rd of April, and so on. So you'll see that, periodically it takes snapshots of a website. What you can do is maybe think of a date or guess a date that you knew when this page was in existence. And if you click back in the calendar to sometime before that date existed, then hopefully you'll be able to find that page that you're looking for. And you can actually navigate through the website like it's the current website. It's kind of a little bit bizarre, but it allows you to go through the menus and the pages and so on. I've used this in the past. I had some issues with an old website or an old version of my current website, and for some reason I lost 2 particular blog posts which were really popular, and I referred to them a lot in workshops, and they just disappeared completely. I don't know what happened. I don't know why they weren't saved. They were published at one point, so it's a really strange thing that they actually disappeared altogether, but they did. So I found that I could go into the Wayback Machine and pick up the place where the blog post was published, and I could view the blog post, and I could actually copy and paste all of the content from that page and paste it into my newer website and just reformat it a little bit and publish it as a new blog post again. So it was really good. It saved me having to do that work from scratch, which I didn't want to do because blog posts take a really, really long time to write. So this has been really useful in that regard. The next thing I want to talk about is saving links to things. Now, I find myself every single day coming across useful information online that I want to save for a later date. So whether it's something I want to use in a workshop or just an article I want to read but not right now, or maybe it's a video that I've come across which I think would go well with something I'm doing. At some point, I want to save them somewhere. And for a number of years, I really struggled with a great way to save links and, be able to find things really easily in the future. The other thing that I do a lot is to share links with other teachers in workshops that I'm running. So, for instance, I run a film scoring workshop, and I've got some great links to do with film scoring, YouTube videos that show interesting movie scores or interviews with John Williams, or I've created myself a video which shows the same scene from a little short movie played 5 times over, and I've applied different styles of music to that one scene. So all of those links to do with film scoring, I really wanted a quick and easy way to share them in a workshop. And I went through a number of different things over the years, ways to share this, and there really was no great easy way. But the website Pinterest came along, and this is where I currently save and share links. So Pinterest is like an online pin board, hence the name Pinterest. And you can basically set up separate little boards. So in my account, I have a number of boards. And they're collections of links all to do with one topic area. So I have decided what the topic areas are, and I've named them myself. So I have a film scoring Pinterest board. And if you click through to my account and go onto my film scoring board, you'll see all of the different links there to do with film scoring. So some of the links go to YouTube videos. You can actually play those on Pinterest itself. And some of the links go through to, Wikipedia articles or websites where there's useful information. Pinterest is very visual, so it's quite easy to find the thing that you're looking for. So even if my film scoring board has 20 or 30 links on it, I can visually see everything there and I can pinpoint the right thing that I want to send people to. So this has been really great. I can link to a Pinterest board in my workshop notes and people can click through and see all of the links gathered together. But also I use it for my own reference. So I like to collect, for instance, songs that have only 3 or 4 chords, because often I need to think of one of those quickly that I want to use in a workshop. And whenever I need to think of one of those, it's really hard to think of, something useful and interesting, a pop song that's current or whatever. You end up resorting to the same ones that you come up with all the time. So I have a Pinterest board which is called Songs with 3 or 4 chords, and I can go there and pick through the ones that I want to use that particular day. Now, Pinterest is really good. They unfortunately brought in, I don't know, maybe a year or 2 ago, they basically force you to log into Pinterest in order to even see other people's links. That didn't used to be the case. So even if you had no Pinterest account, you could still view someone else's links without setting up your own account. And I really liked that because it was much easier to share things in workshops. Now, unfortunately, you can't really see anything unless you've set up your account, and it's free. So I would recommend doing it because there's so much useful stuff on Pinterest. Lots and lots of teachers are using it. And once you have your own account there, you can save your own collections of links. Like you could visit my film scoring board and save anything that you find relevant and useful to your own Pinterest account so that you don't have to keep coming back to mine all the time. I've found lots of useful things that way. I've discovered lots of useful things that way. Pinterest is great, so you will need to set up an account in order to see things, so that's one option for sharing and saving links. Now, another option which I know some teachers use, I haven't really used it myself, but I've seen some other teachers use it, which is called Symbaloo. It's SYMBALLO. And this is a way to kind of set up like a Pinterest board where you've got little squares and you can link each of those squares to a different thing. So one may link to a YouTube video, one may link to a Wikipedia article, one might link to something else that is relevant for that topic or subject area or lesson that you're teaching. Now, my understanding is that the teachers that are using this are actually using it with their students. So they might set up a Symbaloo collection of links for one specific lesson or one unit of work that they're doing. And it becomes an easy way just to send students to somewhere central. Again, you can sort of visually see on the little squares what the links are. And you can actually group them with different coloured buttons. So all the red ones might be listening exercises, for instance, and all the yellow ones might be history-related, links for that topic that you're teaching. So I think that's a good one to explore. With saving YouTube video links, one thing that I think is quite underrated is to set up your own YouTube channel. And you don't actually have to publish anything to your channel. You can set up your channel and simply use it to save playlists. Now, a playlist can be just a group of videos which are all to do with one topic area. So if I continue with the example of film scoring, rather than me having a Pinterest board, which is film scoring links and videos, I could have a YouTube playlist, which is just film scoring videos, all collected in the one place. And again, those songs with 3 or 4 chords, I could have a playlist, which is that. I've started collecting songs which use the pentatonic scale, mostly throughout the song or in the melody. So I could have a pentatonic melody collection of songs in a playlist. And again, it's just a really quick and easy way to have all those things saved in one place. Lastly, you can use a simple spreadsheet to save links. And if you're going to do that, it might be a good idea to use something like a Google spreadsheet because it's something that is online, it lives online, so you can easily share that spreadsheet with someone. So I have also used this, and there are times when I do use a Google spreadsheet where I've got in one column the name of the link or the video, and in the next column I've got the link itself. And people can easily go there and see the name of the link and then just click on the link and it will take them straight, it will open up a new tab and take them straight to that video or web page. After the break, we'll cover the last couple of productivity tips, which will be to do with speeding up student assessment and learning songs quickly. This episode of the Music Tech Teacher podcast is brought to you by the Midnight Music Community. The Midnight Music Community is an online space for music teachers who'd like help using technology in their music lessons. There are online courses, video tutorials, lesson plans, music tech news, and professional development certificates are provided for any training that you undertake. I'm inside the community every day, personally answering members' questions and sharing tips and ideas. The best thing is that you get to connect with hundreds of other music teachers just like you and share your own experiences and occasional music tech frustrations. For more information and a special joining price just for the listeners of this podcast, visit midnightmusic.com.au/podcast offer. That's midnightmusic.com.au/podcast offer. Now, I just want to talk about speeding up student assessments in the classroom with particular regard to music technology type projects. Now, there's a few things you can do here which I think do make things a little bit quicker. And before I mention a couple of tech tools or techniques that you can use, I'll just talk through one option, which is that, I get asked a lot in workshops, what is the best way to export student work from laptops or from iPads in order to assess that work? Now, with regard to that, before even thinking about whether you're going to export the work and gather it together, I would perhaps suggest that you consider whether you need to do that in the first place. Exporting student work and gathering it in some way from iPads or laptops or whatever it is that you're using is possibly the most painful and time-consuming part of any music tech project or technology project generally, whether it's music or not, that there is. And it can be a little bit painful. So especially with iPads, getting student work off iPads is one of the more difficult aspects. I don't think it would stop me from using them, but it's the more difficult or time-consuming aspect of using them with students. The first thing is that you could think, do I really need to do that? And one way to assess student work in the classroom is actually to assess it at the end of a lesson, or maybe it's a whole lesson in itself, where students play their music tech projects for each other in a performance type situation. So this serves a couple of purposes. A, like we're talking about, it speeds up the assessment process because rather than you having to export work and save it somewhere or download it from somewhere or sync it somewhere, all of those things are quite hard and time consuming. Instead of doing that, you're just going to watch it on the spot and assess it on the spot. The second thing is that it gives the students something to work towards. So a lot of music tech projects, you would know the students are working maybe with headphones on. It's quite isolating, and I think it's really great if you can get students to play their work for each other in a sort of a public forum. And by public, I mean it could just be in your classroom. It could be, like a performance night with parents attending as well. I know some teachers who have done that. But at the very least, maybe it's just in your classroom and you devote some time to that. So students can come up, in the instance of iPads, students can come up with their iPad, plug it into the data projector and the speakers, and play their project that they've worked on, whatever that might be, for everyone else in the class. And you can use it as a time where students might give each other feedback, but you can also give the students feedback and you can do your marking on the spot there. So this saves you that process of exporting and saving and syncing and downloading and whatever, and you get your assessment done. Of course, you need to devote class time to doing that, so it may not suit everything that you're doing, but I really do think it's a good thing to just consider. I've found that with student workshops that I've run, that's been one of the favourite parts of the lesson. So again, I'll use film scoring as the example. I've had, for instance, grade 5 students do a little film scoring project where we put some sound effects together with a very short movie, and they used some existing loops to start with to change the mood of the scene that we were film scoring. And it was really great, and some of them came up with really innovative things. So instead of a dog bark sound to go with the dog that you could see on the screen, some students chose a cow sound or chickens or something different. Quite amusing. And it was great to see them play those projects for each other. They couldn't wait until it was their turn to play their project for the other students in the class. So I really do think it's a great way to go. Now, if you do want to go down the route of assessing student work after class time, there's a couple of things you can do, and something you might like to consider if you're not doing it already is to use recording to your advantage. And you can do this in, two main ways really. One way is to use screencasting software. So screencasting software allows you to record whatever's going on your screen. And so if you were opening up, for instance, a GarageBand project on your Mac, and you could see the GarageBand project on your screen, and let's say it's a student project. So you've got the student project, you open it up and you can see all of the separate tracks in the project, which is really useful when you're assessing something rather than just hearing the end result as an MP3 file. To see all their tracks is really useful. What you can do is with screencasting software is open that up at the same time. You can press record in the screencasting software and then press play in their project. So what the screencasting software will do is record the GarageBand project playing through, and the video that you end up with shows the GarageBand project play line moving through the project. You can hear what's going on. You can hear the music that the kids have created. If there was a video in there as well, you'd see the video play, just like you're looking at the computer screen. So that's one part of it. But the best part, and to do with student assessment, is that if you are pressing record, you can actually record your own voice over the top of their project. So this can help you speed up assessment a little bit, because instead of you having to write something down on a piece of paper or in a document saying, I really liked what you did at bar 4, you know, the chord sequence was really effective, but perhaps you could try this instead. Instead of writing that out and having to note that it was at bar 4 that this took place, you can actually say this at the point that the project gets to that in the video. So the GarageBand will play through, and at bar 4 you can actually say, oh, I love this part here, but maybe you could try this to develop that idea a little bit more. So it's like a real-time thing, and what you'll end up with is a video that you can give to the students, and the students can watch that back and hear you talking about their project while their project is playing on the screen. You don't have to use that just for music projects where it's playing through in a GarageBand file, for instance, or in Audacity or Mixcraft or any of the other music programs. You could do it for something that's a little bit more static as such. So if, for instance, you bring up a student essay on the screen, maybe you've got a PDF copy or a Word document, and the student essay, you know, might have some text in it, and then it might have some image examples or notation examples in the essay. You could actually give your feedback by talking through that essay while it's showing on the screen, and just give the students some audio feedback and point out things with your mouse pointer as you're going and talk that through. Now, if you want to know about screencasting software, there's a couple of different options. There's one free option called Jing, Jing, which works for both Mac and PC. There are some limitations as to how you can share the file that you end up with, the video of you talking through the assessment. You can get a link at the end and send that to the students, so that can be quite useful. It's difficult to download the actual Jing video itself and share that. It's in a sort of a proprietary format, so it's a bit more difficult to share around, but it's a great free option. Now, Jing only allows you to record up to 5 minutes for free. But if that's all you need to do, that's fine. And if you need to record something longer, but you still want to use Jing, you can just break it down into part 1 and part 2, so small sections. That's probably going to be better for the students anyway, just to have small snippets of videos to watch through when they get the assessment from you, rather than watching something that's really long. There are some other free options for screencasting available, and I found that a lot of the other free options have one drawback for music teachers, which is that they don't all record your system audio. Now, system audio is the audio that is produced by the music software that you might have open. So again, thinking about that GarageBand example, if you opened up a student project in GarageBand and press play, some of the free options that you can get for screencasting don't record the GarageBand audio. It will record your voice, and that's fine, but you may not get the GarageBand audio recorded in the background. So if you're checking out other free options, and there are quite a number of them around, just double check that they record system audio. That's the terminology you're looking for. If you're going to be doing a lot of screencasting, and once you get into it, there are many different uses for it. I really love doing it. It's the way I actually create tutorial videos for things. So you may want to do that as well at some point in the future. If you're going to be doing this quite a lot and you need to make longer videos and you need some really great editing options, there are software programs that you can pay for screencasting. So the one I use on my Mac is called ScreenFlow, which is really good. It's around the $100 US mark. And there is an option for PC called Camtasia. Camtasia is quite a bit more expensive, but again, really good. Both of them have fantastic editing options within them, lots you can do with them. ScreenFlow is actually the only thing I use for all of my video editing generally, whether I've recorded my screen or not, because I can drag other videos in there. even if it's not a recording of my laptop screen, I can use it for any video editing. So that's the thing I use. Now, if you don't want to go down the screencasting route, another option is to use just audio, and you could use, say, free Audacity program, which you can have on your Mac or PC. And you might even just want to talk through your feedback with students, which can speed up the process. So I find that it can be very time consuming writing down feedback. So to talk it through or to use screencasting software just can be a much quicker process. It's not going to suit every situation, but it's just something to keep in mind as an option. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about to do with productivity is learning songs. And it's funny, isn't it? This is the only actual specific music thing that I'm going to mention today. All of the other productivity tips really apply no matter what you're teaching, but this last one is music specific. And this is to do with how you play back songs in order to listen to them for learning purposes or arranging or transcribing purposes. And I've been a long time arranger and copyist and transcriber of music, and I've over the years, changed what I'm using. So in the olden days, in inverted commas, and I'm going to show my age a little bit here, of course I was using, something like a cassette player in the early days, and then later on a CD player of some sort. And, I would be pressing fast forward and rewind and play very rapidly in order to replay small sections of songs, to learn them or to transcribe them. And at one point I even went into a shop and purchased a CD player based on the responsiveness of the playback buttons. And the guy in the shop thought I was a bit strange, but, I'm sure no one else has gone in to choose something on that basis, but that was what was important to me at the time. Now, later on, of course, things like iTunes came along and Spotify, and so I was then playing songs on my laptop, and really that wasn't a great process, although I sort of suffered through that for a while. And, you sort of click with your mouse back a little bit on the playback line to rewind just where you want to get to. But it was very inexact. It was very difficult to get back just a couple of bars or, a phrase in the music. Now, when the iPad came along, of course, a number of apps appeared which allowed you to manage playback of songs. So instead of just opening up songs in my normal music app on my iPad, I went and checked out a few different ones. The one that I use nowadays, and I went through a couple again, but the one that I use nowadays is called AnyTune Pro, and it has a free version which you can use and also a paid version which has extra features. But the great thing about AnyTune Pro is that you can really easily skip through back and forth through the waveform. So when you import a song, you can see the waveform in great detail, and you can really easily just go back a tiny little bit or forward a tiny bit in the song in order to play it for learning purposes or transcription purposes. Now, other things that AnyTune Pro does which are fantastic that it has the ability to set up a small loop section. So I can identify, say, 2 bars that I want to listen to over and over and over and over, and I can drag, a couple of a starting and ending point into place, and then just ask it to play those 2 bars over and over, and it will do that without a break, and it's fantastic if you need to re-listen to something a lot of times. Something else that AnyTune Pro does quickly and easily is to transpose music and to speed it up or slow it down. So with just the tap of a button or two, you can tap an up arrow and have the music transposed up by semitone or down to go down by semitone. You can also have a tap a button which is increasing the tempo tiny bit at a time or decreasing the tempo. So you can go quite slowly if you need to listen to something slowly without changing the pitch. AnyTune Pro will allow you to do that. So I mention this in workshops because I find a lot of people are not familiar with the fact that there is such an app that will do this sort of thing. And there are a couple of different ones out there, but this for me is the one that I found that does the job best, and I really like it and use it a lot. So that's it for today. That wraps up all the productivity tips for music teachers. And I hope you enjoyed those and will maybe give some of them a go. I mean, if you were going to just choose one, I would go back to the previous episode and take on the password manager as the first thing if you're not already doing that. I really think that's a really good option. And the second most important one would be to make sure that you've got some backup system in place as well. The Music Tech Teacher podcast is hosted by me, Katie Wardrobe. You can find more information and links from today's episode at midnightmusic.com.au/8. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.